Welcome to track here at Millennium 2025. The last few years, since Coach Hannibal and I took over, the program has been growing exponentially. Right now, I think we have somewhere around 180 active kids. Could be 200 by the time we get through other sports. So it's a big group to manage. If we haven't met yet, I'm Coach Rafferty, so I'm one of the two head coaches. Coach Hannibal and I run the program, and Coach Manchi, our throws coach, is the assistant head coach. Since we took over a couple of years ago, Coach Hannibal and I have been on a mission to build the program, and the first part of doing that in track and field is to build a staff. There are so many different unique events in track and field. I think there's 20, 21 that we contest here in Arizona, and a lot of them are very, very different, from throwing the javelin to shot put, to a high jump, pole vault, plus the running and hurdles and all that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot of dedicated coaches, especially knowledgeable coaches that have experience and are not just placeholders. One of our focuses was to have a staff of elite talented coaches that know the specifics of the event that they're coaching. From hurdles, throws, pole vault, all those things. Some of those events are dangerous, pole vault in particular. So we went from no pole vault coaches to 3 pole vault coaches now. Last year, we're bringing pole vault back. We had 2 freshmen make it to state. So the program is on the upside. In fact, the boys team last year, we had the top sprinter in the state last year, and he had a minor tweak at state, so he wasn't able to run in the finals. Otherwise, we would have almost for sure won the state title. So we still finished 3rd and had a fantastic season last year. Won the district again. Got the trophy back from Canyon View, who's become kind of our biggest rival. But the district that we're in, the Agua Fria School District, has become a powerhouse in track and field. Primarily us, Desert Edge, Canyon View, and Verado. Agua Fria's gotten a little smaller in population, but the other 4 schools, our track teams and staffs have grown tremendously the last few years. The girls were a close second behind Canyon View in districts. Canyon View won the state championship, so we were right there with competing at the highest level in the state. That, however, is not the focus of our program, and that's one of the things I want to share with you. So I talked about coaches and staff. We have 18 coaches on staff. We get 4 assistants that the school pays for. So we have 18 assistant coaches, 16 assistant coaches with Coach Hannibal and I. And most of them are volunteers, so they're donating their time. The rest of us are almost volunteers because, I don't know if you guys are aware, but coaches at any level don't get paid much more than gas money, especially for the amount of time and energy we put into the program. So I can promise you that there are going to be mistakes along the way. I can promise you that we're not going to do everything perfectly, but I can also promise you that we're trying to do the best that we can. So please be patient with us as well. As we get through, trying to manage 180 kids is like herding cats, especially when we have so many different things going on at the same time. We're doing our best this year to try to alert you guys to athletes missing practice. And it can be a little annoying, but we're doing our best with Final Forms. It's a new implementation this year. It's a new software that we're using that replaces the Register My Athlete that we've used in the past. And we're still learning and actually getting changes made by Final Forms from that, or to accommodate us. But one of the things that it has, it's a very tedious process, and it takes several hours, and one of our coaches, Coach Michelle, mainly just does administrative stuff and checks kids in and out, and then goes through it and literally spends about 2 hours a day just going through the attendance and trying to mark kids excused and unexcused and all that stuff. We have a pretty liberal policy with that. We try to be as flexible as we can with the kids. But there is a balance between trying to be flexible, allowing the kids to, trying to accommodate everybody's schedules, and still trying to field a competitive team and have expectations at a high level. Again, like I was starting to get into a minute ago, the focus of the program is not about performance. I mean, ultimately that's kind of where we're headed, but the focus is first and foremost to help these young ladies and gentlemen become better people, period. One of the things that we have as part of our policies here at Millennium with the program is there's no foul language tolerated at all. And that's not because we're prudish or anything like that, or that we're perfect saints either, but in the world of track and field, in our time with the kids, when we're together at practice, on the bus, at meets, anywhere we're together, especially as they're representing Millennium, we expect them to represent themselves, the school, the staff, and ultimately you guys as well, as a program that's focused on class, dignity, good sportsmanship. So that's an emphasis, and that's something that if it becomes an issue, usually we'll just correct the kids a few times at practice when we hear it, and we try to get them to kind of self-correct. But it is something that we make a point of emphasis just for them to understand place and time. Today's world with kids, the language in the halls at the high school is very different than it was when I was a kid and growing up, and most of you guys too. And what's tolerated is a lot more widespread than what it used to be. So the kids have gotten more comfortable as an overall, and we're trying to crack down on that to help them understand that there's time and place, that's just not appropriate and that's not a good reflection of the program. One of the reasons I bring that up is we'd also like to ask for your help, especially you guys are in the stands walking around meets and things like that. If you notice or hear athletes, please either mention it to them or mention it to us, and help us try to keep that to a bare minimum. That's definitely a big focus of our program. I'm Coach Rafferty, I don't know if I said that earlier, and I primarily focus on the distance part of the program. Coach Hannibal is going to be going back and forth, but if you haven't met him yet, this is Coach Hannibal. So Coach Hannibal and I share the head coaching duties, but right now he's working with the kids with the fundraiser, but he's also the primary sprints and jumps coach. And then we delegate duties amongst the rest of the staff. So as far as like training philosophy goes and things like that, if anybody's like got a background in track and field and you want to have a better understanding of what we're doing and why, just come talk to us individually or send us a message. We're happy to talk about that. We won't get into a lot of details with that today, but we're happy to share that with anybody that's curious to know and wants to understand it. Communications. One of the big things for us is trying to make sure that we have an open line of communications with the parents and how to do that. Last year we were one of the programs that introduced an app called SportsU into the district, and then the district adopted it district-wide for all sports and activities for communication with the parents. Historically we've used Remind, but SportsU is a little bit more encompassing. And one of the things, if you're welcome to pull out your phone if you have it with you and have the app. If you don't have the app, try to make sure you get it by the end of today, or by the time we break. We can help you get on there, but all of our communications with the team is going to be through SportsU, and there's one main group for the whole team, and most of the communications are held there. But then there are specifics to event groups. I send out the training a day ahead of time to the distance group for all the athletes that are part of that distance group, so they have an idea, reminder of what's coming up and what to be prepared for. The other groups use it, similar ways, but depending on what events your athletes are doing, it's important to be part of all those groups just for you guys to be aware. Okay. In the main group, a lot of parents are not aware that there are multiple pages to the group. So oftentimes when you open up that SportsU app, and I mean I was guilty of this the first season we used it, I basically just went to that home screen. I didn't know there was other stuff. So we've been learning that as we go, and if you go to that home screen, there's a little, should be a little like, looks like a t-shirt icon at the bottom for groups or teams. If you click on that and select a specific group, like the track team, I think it's just MHS track and field. If you click on that main group, it'll take you to the specifics for that group. And in there, there's the main feed, which pops up on the home screen as well. All the feeds, any posts to any of the groups will pop up on your main home screen. But in that specific one, when you open that one, it'll go straight just to the post for that group only. But there are also other tabs. You may have to scroll, depending on how your phone is set up. You may have to scroll. There are going to be some different titles, like calendar. And if you click on that, you can go into a team calendar. It's easier to navigate from a browser or tablet or PC than it is on your phone. You get a full like calendar looking screen as opposed to just a line item day by day. But our entire season, to the best of our ability so far, is mapped out in there. The practices, the practice times, as well as any events in there. They should pop up as different colors. So events include the meets that we'll attend, and details. The closer we get to those meets, the details for those meets will be posted. So when you open up that calendar event, we can put notes in there, and we can also put attachments. So things like the details about the meet that come out from the meet directors, we'll then take that and upload it into the calendar so that it's available for you guys as soon as we have it. So it gives you, a place to go and find information. In the past, usually that's a lot of messages back and forth with the coaching staff, but we're trying to make it available for you guys anytime where it's convenient for you to be able to grab that information and not wait for us to send it out. We try not to send that stuff out until pretty close to the last minute because it gets buried further back, and that's just been our experience. A lot of parents and athletes will miss it if we send it out a week in advance. So we send it to everyone, that kind of stuff, detailed about the meet coming up, usually just a day or two ahead of time, to make sure that it's still at the top of the feed. But you have access to it all the time. So on top of that, the calendar is one of the big important things, but the other one in there that's really critical is files. Okay, and that's the one that's usually missed because it's kind of buried a little bit, and you usually have to scroll. The files section in SportsU is extremely important because that's where we post any reference material you guys might need. So things like, for instance, today I put the outline of today's meeting in the files. We have the fundraiser information in the files. We have a parent letter for the meet that we're attending in Arcadia, California, and we'll talk about that later today. But we have that parent letter posted in the files. We have a nutritional guide. We have a guide about a document about iron deficiency, which is one of the big problems with high school athletes, especially the ladies. We have a document about shin splints because every runner, especially sprinter or distance runner, if you run long enough, you've either had shin splints, will have shin splints, or currently have shin splints. So it's one of those, pretty much a catch-all for a lower leg injury, but there's a lot of details about that. We have a document specifically that tells you what it is, what causes it, how to treat it, symptoms now, and how to treat it for the long term. Just a number of resources, links to click on for the kids to go and follow exercises and stuff to be able to try to get rid of those. So again, a lot of different resources in there. One of the big ones is also track links. The links are where you're going to find things like our booster homepage. So we have a website for our booster club and a lot of information about the team. That team webpage, there's a link. If you open that document, there's a link to that. Our team store. If you guys aren't aware, we have a team store. We have one in our booster club, just so you know, a lot of our stuff is cross-country and track. So there's a cross-country and track page because our booster is a combined cross-country and track booster club. So on the team store, there's 2 different drop-downs for the cross-country specific items and the track specific items. That team store is going to be open year-round, and there's no timelines on accessing it. So you guys can go in at any time and add gear. We've been adding more and more designs to it. I think the track one has like 38 different designs with, you know, in each design you can do different colors and stuff, and like the t-shirts, and we've got some ones for the kids that are more specific to like their events, like, you know, I throw stuff, or you know, things like that that are kind of, you know, kind of fun for the kids besides just the kind of the plain Millennium track, different designs. But there's, you know, the track mom and track dad and that kind of stuff. So feel free to go on there at any time. You guys can order, and the great thing about our suppliers, they're extremely fast. So usually we have the stuff back within like a week, 10 days at the most. But they're really good, and the family that runs all that, the business, they're part of the program. They have 2 kids in the track program as well. So they do a lot of stuff for us, actually. But that, again, that link can be found right there in that track links document. And there's some other things, and we'll be adding more throughout the season. We'll just keep updating the document as we go. So again, a lot of resources that are in there. If you don't know about them, obviously, then you can't use them. But that's a big part of going forward. What we're going to try to use to be able to communicate to you guys and make information available to you, because these meets are long. They're, you know, the schedules are different, and so knowing where it is and when it is, you can come and see your athletes. That's important. All right. Make sure I'm staying close to on schedule here, please. One other big one in that links is something called athletic.net. If you're not familiar with that, that's one of the all track and field information websites. So athletic.net is the website that we use to do all the entries for meets, and where all the results are posted. So we have a meet calendar in there. If you go to the Millennium homepage on athletic.net, and the track links that are set up will take you specifically to ours. And then you can even look at past years. You can look at school records. You can look at records by age. You can look at event rankings. You can look at state. You can dial it down to Division II. Well, we're Division I now. To Division I rankings, and kind of see. You can see other results and see if you're curious to see where your athlete stacks up in a specific event. You can see all that from athletic.net. And your athlete will have a profile in there, and the profile will contain all their historical information. If they've ever competed for another high school or club program or middle school, you know, or eventually in college, later on, hopefully for some of them, all those accounts, if they're not already under one profile, they can be combined just with an email to athletic.net. So for the athletes that some of our kids have been running since they were, you know, 7 or 8 years old, in club programs, going on through all the way to college, you know, all of their historical records can all be found in athletic.net. Every performance they've ever done, all their PRs, you know, personal records, that's something we focus a lot on, can all be found in there. So that's a really big resource for us. Talk for a second about grades. Kind of goes without saying, eligibility is an important factor of being able to run track and field, because you have to be eligible to be able to compete. Typically, the grade checks here are very limited. It's not open. So in other words, if your athlete has a grade, whatever their grades are at any point, it doesn't automatically click anything or change their status. But there will be a specific grade check. Usually it's right before the spring break. And that Friday, grades come out, and it's the grades on that day that rule all. So whatever their grade is that day, if they have an F in any class, they are ineligible for a week. And the worst part is, because it's going into spring break, it's not that week where we don't have, we have a meet on Saturday at the beginning of spring break and just practice the rest of the week. They become ineligible the following week when school resumes, which covers our district championships. So if they're failing any classes at the grade check, they will be ineligible to compete at districts. And that's a spot where we're usually trying to qualify for state and for those athletes that are on the bubble. That's one of the really, the emphasis meets where we really try to perform at a high level. And so it's an opportunity for the kids that if they can't compete, they're going to miss out on. So just, it's important for you guys to be aware. They automatically recheck the grades 1 week later. Anybody who's gotten their grade up from an F, and if they're passing all of their classes with a D or better, they're automatically reinstated. They can practice the whole time, but they cannot compete. If they're not automatically reinstated, then it's going to be on them to contact the athletic department, athletic director specifically, once their grades are passing. And at that point, they'll mark them. Question?
Did you just say a D or better?
Correct. The school rules district-wide, they can compete with the D or better. They cannot be failing. So the if their grade is an F, that's when it kicks in. If they have a 61%, they're eligible to compete. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's pretty lenient. Okay. It's pretty lenient. But the team this size, every year there are instances that we have to address with that. And sometimes it's with our top varsity athletes. So just making you aware of it so you guys understand the rules. The athletic director in the presentation that he does go through that, but a lot of times he goes through it quickly and it may not be clear. So since I mentioned that, let me touch on that. Skip to that real quick. So just yesterday, the athletic director released the spring sports parent communication, presentation quiz. If you have already done it this year, this school year, not calendar year, but this school year, for any athlete, doesn't have to be the athlete that's in track, you don't have to do it again. If and only if you've done it for a different athlete, so the name wouldn't match up with the athlete that's in track, then you would need to message Mr. Gordillo and let him know so he can cross-reference, my son was in basketball, now my daughter's doing track, I've already seen it. Otherwise, he's not going to know to connect the names, and he's doing this for every athlete in every sport all at the same time. So it's a tedious process, and it is a manual one. So mistakes are made, and sometimes we have to reach out to the athletic director to try to get athletes cleared. The challenging part is, like I said, it's a manual process that takes time. We end up having a lot of parents that'll wait till Wednesday at 2 o'clock to get it done when we have a meeting that starts at 3:30. And then athletes are not eligible to compete until that is completed. We have to, again, it's not our call. We don't make any decisions regarding eligibility. That comes from the athletic director with this, and there's a bookstore item, a fee. You should have all received an email by now, if not no later than Monday, because they put them in one at a time. But those two things have to be completed before your athlete is eligible to compete. So don't wait to do that or to reach out if you have a unique circumstance with that. If you haven't done it yet, The area that always causes problems, well, one, they don't work. It doesn't work well on phones. Oftentimes it cuts off and doesn't complete on a phone, and then you're kind of left in limbo, and the athletic director never gets the information. So I would recommend not doing it on your phone or even attempting it on your phone, because you'll get to the end 30 minutes in and it'll just freeze up and not finalize. So try to do it on a tablet or PC. The biggest issue that we have every season is parents will put their own name, or they'll put the athlete's nickname, or just their first name. You need to put the athlete's full name and designate the sport. And you can put more than one, like if you have 2 athletes, or if you have more than one sport, put that in there. You may need to abbreviate. But at the very beginning, it asks for a name, and that's what you put in there. And it would be Sally Smith track to make sure it gets credit. Question?
So we do have the ability to put multiple students in that process?
Yeah, so you could say like Sally Johnson dash track, or track and band. If like I said, you may need to kind of abbreviate, or if you can't get it in there, you can send an email to the athletic director and say, I put this athlete in, and then I also have this athlete in band or something, because they don't connect it. What he gets a list that'll say like Sally Smith track, he'll go to the girls track roster and he'll cross off Sally Smith. That's how sophisticated it is. Not very. Question?
But if we have 2 athletes that are in track are in different events?
That doesn't matter. Just track. Yeah, you don't have to say field or anything. Just track. He just needs to know what sport roster he's looking at. And so he'll go cross them off of our roster, and then and then he sends us that list, and the list dictates our eligibility or not. We don't have any latitude with that. We have to follow the list between the fees and the athletic director's quiz. I don't know what to call it, but presentation. Practice day, so we practice, if we don't have a meet, we practice every day but Sunday. Last Saturday we got kicked out because they had some big flag football tournament with Cam Newton here, so they took the whole campus. But normally we practice. That's another reason why we needed to do the practice today, even though we're doing all this stuff and trying to cram everything in. One of the challenging things with coaching track, especially here at Millennium, the size of our team and the success of some of our other sports. We still have a lot of winter sports that are still going in the tournament series. So some of those athletes we're waiting to get them into track and to incorporate them into the run. We don't even know for sure. Some of those kids will show up and they're not even on our roster in advance, or we don't know that they're coming. So trying to sort through. We started, a lot of parents just mark every sport when they register at the beginning of the school year. So we started with 350 names registered for track. And then we're trying to sort through by the end of that, who are the actual 100, half of those that are actually showing up competing. So we do practice every day. Our practices are long. I apologize especially to some of the sprint parents. Please be patient with us because we have a limited number of lanes on the track. So as that keeps growing, it extends practice, and we don't want to cut the practice, the training program back just because of the time limit. So we haven't posted the practices until 5, but that's a 5 to 5:30 really with some of the event groups. By the time we're getting through all the stations, it used to be easy to get through that by 5 when we had 60 kids. But at 180, it changes the game. So we're trying to keep the training at the appropriate levels, and then that's one of the reasons why we try to be flexible. If you've made an orthodontist appointment or something like that, to try to be really flexible with the kids. But I was mentioning that a little bit earlier. One of the things, there are some athletes that are already taking advantage of our flexibility. And we've got to try to walk the line there between athletes that can really contribute and are ready to be here. We don't care what their performance or talent levels are. We care what their effort and attitudes are. So they could be at the very back of the pack performance-wise, but if they're doing everything they can, trying to be the best they can be, they're going to get a lot of our attention. Conversely, I've heard this many times echoed from kids that, specifically about me in particular, that's usually what makes it back to me, that Coach Rafferty pays attention to the higher performing athletes and he doesn't pay attention to me, or he doesn't care. That is absolutely not true. I will spend and do spend a lot of time with athletes at the back end of the roster. What they're interpreting as me not paying attention to them or caring about them as much is they're not putting as much into it, and oftentimes the athletes that are putting a lot into it are the ones who are performing high. So it's they're drawing the wrong conclusion from why I'm spending time and attention with that athlete. It's not because of their performance, it's because of their effort and attitude, and that usually again leads to their performance. But that's not the driver. So conversely, I spend year after year a lot of time with the athletes, and I know this is true of all of our staff, with the athletes that want to be coached, that are willing to work. The athletes that come to us every day with, my leg's sore, I think I need to see the trainer. We have some of those. We have athletes that have been there for 2 weeks now and haven't worked out yet. Where the trainer goes, I don't know what's wrong with that. I can't find anything wrong. And we don't want to be overbearing and try to force athletes to perform when there's a chance they could be hurt. So our philosophy is if they claim they're hurt, we're not going to question it. But at the same time, sometimes we have to have some conversations with them, and that may lead to conversations with you guys about whether or not this is the right sport for them. Track and field, for the most part, is a difficult physical sport. There's some of the events are technique oriented, but even those, the kids that are jumping, high jump and even pole vault, they have to do a lot of running. Pole vault's mainly, the performance is based on speed more than anything else. So they have to do a lot of training, and the training is difficult and it's painful and it's challenging. And that's not even getting into what the distance kids get into. It's painful. It hurts. It's not fun. That part of it isn't the fun part. So the athletes that are here that want to have fun, it's great, and we like that, but we don't want them here just for the fun part if they're not doing the work as well. It sets the wrong tone for the team. Question?
Yes. So if a child is hurt, how does that affect the event? Do you have like a floater that will be in place of that kid? Like say it's a relay.
Yes.
And you're missing a kid, like how do you guys deal with that?
So the question is, how do we deal with an athlete that maybe is injured and an event, and specifically with a relay? We always have alternates for the relays. One of my philosophies with track and field is that, at least with the distance crew, and I've involved heavily with the 4x4, is that we have 6 athletes. Sometimes we'll put 8 or 4 alternates as well, but a minimum of 6. Those alternates are expected to prepare up until the time the gun goes off as if they're racing, or the last, may not be quite the gun, but when the team goes into the bullpen. I have had athletes roll an ankle warming up, and if we don't have a prepared alternate, bad things happen. So we expect the alternates to prepare like they're going to be part of the meet. I had an athlete, actually he just came here to visit, and I had him talk to the team for a couple minutes yesterday. He is a school record holder, state champion, who got his opportunity because someone got hurt and he is prepared. At the time, he wasn't one of the guys that we expected to make the relay. He ended up on the 4x4 relay that year with Coach Diggs, if you haven't met him, was part of that team. They got second in the state to Chandler. And then the following year, won the open state championship, so the fastest in all divisions. So we have a really nice history here with some of those events, but to answer that question, so again, there's always alternates, especially if it happens in the short term, like we're already at the meet and something happens, or they get sick, or things happen, somebody's hamstring's tight. We try to be careful, but that brings up a really good point too, because outside of injuries, which we don't control, are schedules, which hopefully we do. And we understand if an athlete gets sick on race day, there's nothing any of us can do about that. We have to make sure the athlete's health is taken priority. But if you're not familiar with how we set up a track meet, we have to enter the events sometimes a week, or in big meets 2 weeks before the event. So that means we have to schedule all of the athletes. One of the things that drives us nuts as coaches, when an athlete goes 3 days before a meet and goes, "Oh, coach, I can't come. Our family's going to Puerto Vallarta tomorrow." Now, if they're part of a relay, it's even worse. But even if they're not, best case, we lose a spot, somebody else loses an opportunity. Because with 180 kids on a team, there's only 4 events that they're all going to be eligible to perform in because of the limitations. Most of our invitationals are limited to 2 or 3 entries per event. It still gets us a lot of kids, and we try to spread it out, but that's 60 kids or so that are actually competing out of 180. It's a limited amount. So those kids that are on the bubble of making varsity and sometimes just need an opportunity to, the bigger stage to get it out of them, will miss an opportunity because somebody else didn't make the effort or wasn't paying attention and didn't let us know in advance in enough time to make corrections. Because when we have to unplug a kid from the schedule, oftentimes it creates a whole domino effect of who all's doing what. We'll move this athlete from this chain and see, make sure you can't just automatically plug in a kid. You have to also look at, one of the things that factors in is the schedule. Sometimes the schedule's not always the same either. So we have to go back, look at the schedule, what other events, what other athletes are doing events, and when are they doing that event? Is it close enough? Is it going to overlap? So we spend an insane amount of time trying to fit and determine and give kids opportunities. That being said, most of it in track and field is not subjective. It's not my opinion or Coach Hannibal's opinion who has a better jump shot or who's a better defender. So track and field, everything's quantifiable. We pretty much go down the list. There is some credit given to attitude, effort, all those kinds of things. So if somebody's on the bubble, an athlete maybe even be slightly ahead of another one, but if that athlete's mailing it in and not really trying, not showing up consistently, the other athlete who is busting their butt might actually get bumped up and get the opportunity because we know that they're going to show up and give their best. So hope that answers that question. But so it does get complicated. Question?
You might be getting to this still, I haven't seen
Okay, that's okay.
today, but we're new to track and field completely.
No problem.
How do we know when our kid is going to be assigned to a meet? So
Great
we can
question.
also prepare.
That's a great question. That is a challenging one. Sometimes there are some athletes that it's pretty obvious they're not ready for that, invitational level performances.
Can you even explain the difference between the duals versus the invitationals?
Yeah,
Can we go
so-
back that basic for those listeners?
Yeah, so we have 4 meets that are considered duels, and they're always on a Wednesday, and we host 2 of them. And historically, there's only been 1 or 2 each season, so this year we've gotten 4, and those are assigned to us automatically by the AIA. But it's good that we have 4. We're happy that we have more and that they're spread out. So in the past, we've struggled. In fact, 2 years ago, we had 2 of them. The first 2 weeks of the season, both of them got rained out and canceled, and then we had no meets for the whole team the rest of the season. So the dual meets are where everybody is able to compete. So a dual meet is just a small, it's unofficial, so that the results, even though we bring in a timing company, so it's electronic time, it's not a bunch of volunteers holding stopwatches, and the times are very inaccurate. And the bad part about that is sometimes, kids told that they just ran a world record, and they in their mind they think they did, and it's really somebody that doesn't know how to work the stopwatch. So we do bring in electronic timing, so it's everything's really accurate. We try to make sure that those kids that are not the varsity level kids are getting the same opportunities to be able to perform and record it, so that they can see historical improvement. We're implementing a new program this year too at meets, where we bought a whole bunch of silly Mardi Gras beads, purple ones. This started with our throwers a couple years ago, and now we're just bringing it to the whole team, where the coaches basically are going to have a bag of beads at meets, and then kids that perform a personal best get a PR at that meet, get beads to wear around the rest of the day. And it's just a silly thing that some kids could care less and they'll throw them in the trash, and some kids get really motivated. You never know which ones those are going to be. So back to the dual meets. The dual meets are unlimited as far as entries. So we can have all 180 athletes competing. Now the reality is, a lot of times the varsity athletes won't compete in those. They may help work the meet, they may do a workout, but like, let's say for instance next week, as an example, on Wednesday we have a dual meet we're hosting here, and there are 5 teams. Traditionally that was just a one-on-one meet, but nowadays lots of teams go, hey, can I come, we'll help out. So especially with us doing electronic timing, a lot of the teams want to come and get that for their kids. So we have 5 teams total, including us, competing next Wednesday. Probably 600 kids, 500 kids, I don't know how many for sure, but a lot. And it's going to take a long time to get through the 400, because those are all running heats. The distance events aren't as bad because everybody can run once, even though they take long. But we can pretty much throw everyone on the track. But when you go like into the 400, it takes a little bit longer, and we've got to go heat after heat after heat. It extends the meets. But that's the biggest difference, is that everybody that's healthy and otherwise eligible is allowed to compete. Our last one this year is April 2nd, and we're also using that as a senior night opportunity. So we're calling that the Tiger Senior Showcase or something, but it's a dual meet where we're going to do something. I'll talk about that a little bit later with the booster. Just do something to honor the seniors on the team. Invitationals are typically Saturdays, but not always. Sometimes they're Fridays. There's a few random ones. But invitationals are going to be varsity. Varsity is a little bit of there's some clear varsity, there's some clear JV, and then there's probably 40% of the athletes are somewhere in the middle. So there are times where we'll have an athlete who may not be, let's say, the top 3 in their event on the team, but because of what everybody else is doing or availability of other athletes, they may even be 5th or 6th on our list, but they'll get to go to the varsity meet, especially if they've worked hard and we feel like they've earned an opportunity. We'll try to find an opportunity for them. Sometimes I will bring athletes that are not competing as an alternate on a relay. I might put them as the 7th or 8th alternate, knowing there's almost no chance they're going to compete. But because they really want to go, they want to be there, they want to be with the team and experience what it's like, especially somebody that's earned that opportunity to get a little bit of special treatment, and then we'll have them help out more with like setting up team camp and so forth. But we'll look for excuses to try to bring athletes when we can, especially ones that we're trying to develop and are putting forth maximum effort and practice and coming with the right attitude all the time. But the entries are limited. So in depending on the invitational, it can be a few or 4 entries per event, but most of them are 2 or 3. All of the meets that we have in this schedule are in-state except for a special meet in Arcadia, California. There is, and we get a really hectic portion of our schedule that includes that Arcadia meet. That meet, and we'll post what the qualifications are for that meet probably here in the next week. So the standards to even enter an athlete into that meet are extremely high. Okay. The best example I can give you, their signature event that they have there is the 2 mile. Not usually a focused event, but in that particular invitational is. Our school record in the 2 mile was just recently broken for boys in 9:47. Last year they had 72 athletes run under 9 minutes. Okay, so yeah, again, our school record 9:47, set by one of the athletes who, we won state and cross country last year. Have a very good distance program here. On the other hand, we have an athlete that she's a freshman at Oregon this year, who is on the all-time list there. She's second in state history in the mile for Arizona, and is on the all-time list at Arcadia. So we've had some athletes. Last year we actually did really well. We had several athletes medal. We had a sprinter medal, we had a thrower medal, and we got to take a bunch of relays. So point being, it's very difficult to get into this meet. Right now we only have one athlete, I think, that meets the criteria for entry. 2 years ago we only had one athlete that met the criteria. We enter them in, and then we wait and see if they make the cut. So that's just the criteria. The standard is already brutal. Just to be allowed to put an entry in, it's the top meet in the western half of the United States. So it's extremely competitive. But last year we were able to take, I think it was 16 athletes. And that included some relays and some alternates. So that's part of what this fundraiser is all about. The Booster Club we can't raise money as a team to pay for individual athletes to do anything. The only funds that we're allowed to raise specifically for an athlete is the funds that athlete raises. So we can apply, when we're doing this fundraiser, last year it was, let's say it was right around $500 per athlete to go to the Arcadia meet for everyone that got there. So this year when we're doing the fundraiser, the athletes that raise $500 or more do not have to come out of pocket to go to Arcadia if they get an invitation to go. But none of the funds from the other athletes can be used by law for that athlete to go to Arcadia. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're trying to get that's one of the focus of our fundraiser. We can use 100% of what a specific athlete raises towards their cost. Anything above and beyond that they don't raise, they will have to, really, you guys, because I know they're probably not going to do it, but you guys would have to contribute in advance before they go to the meet to cover all the costs. Last year, the Booster Club did front the money because everything was pretty late, and then a number of athletes didn't pay the Booster Club back, and most of them graduated. So this year, in order for the athletes to go, they've got to have it covered in advance, one way or the other. Make sense? So the question was asked, how do we know if our athlete's going to be in a meet? That's a difficult one. Now, as soon as entries close, so let's say next Saturday we have a big meet. So I was talking about how we'll have a Wednesday dual meet. Some of those varsity athletes that are racing Saturday, especially for me, the distance athletes shouldn't do too many high effort races throughout the season. My varsity athletes will compete in the dual meet, but they will be running as a workout, so they will not be running full out. It'll be a controlled, targeted pace that's really designed as a workout for them. And then they'll be racing for real on Saturday. Sometimes we hold varsity athletes out I, as a distance coach, prefer the varsity athletes are involved to help the rest of the group know when to show up, how to prepare, you know, get ready mentally for the meet so that the JV kids aren't on their own, but the varsity kids are kind of there as mentors. So the meet on Saturday, entries will close and be finalized. I think it's, this week's a little more grace, I think it's Thursday night. So by Friday morning, hopefully we will have the confirmed list of who we entered into events. And then as soon as we have that available, we'll publish it. So we'll send that out for both you and the kids, because the kids, you know, oftentimes don't know in advance. Especially when we get into season, there's going to be a lot of meets that are just a few days apart. And some of them close, like we have the Rattler meet coming up in a few weeks. And then after that, the next one is a couple weeks later at Chandler Rotary, but the entries for Chandler Rotary close before the Rattler because it's such a huge meet. So, you know, it's...
When you say publish, it'll be in that file, or it will be posted on the thread, or where?
Yeah.
So,
where do we find the publish?
so typically, I will post it in SportsU. I will send a message, these are the athletes. I'll post it and put it in the file and put it in the calendar. So we try to be as overwhelmingly generous with information as we can to try to eliminate as much confusion as we can, but there are a lot of moving parts and we don't always get it. You know, like, and sometimes we're really struggling to get things finalized last minute. So we'll get it to you as soon as we possibly can. And a lot of times the athletes have figured out that some of the meets you can go on athletic.net and they publish the entries. So in other words, as we're putting them in, they can see who's entered and they can see, because they want to see also who's competing against them. And so those are never finalized until they're final. Oftentimes we go in and we experiment and start putting kids different places, and then we look at it, and then we look at the schedule, and then and then we start moving the dominoes around. And then if the kids get in the habit of trying to go and they're like, oh, I'm running the 200, and it should be, the schedules, by the way, are continuous. They are not published in advance for almost any of the meets, other than a couple. So in other words, there's not going to be, if my kid's in the 200, that this is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and if I show up there at 2:55, I'll get to see my kid run. That's not how it works. They just start the meet, and they go through the events as quickly as they can. And they'll sometimes have an estimated timeline, but that estimated timeline can be off by hours, either direction, just depending on things like the, we've had times where the timing system breaks, and the meet gets delayed 2 hours. Or the opposite, a lot of kids don't show up, and they combine events, and next thing you know, the meet's rolling an hour ahead of schedule. So if you have an athlete in an event, we get asked a lot by parents, hey, what time is Johnny running? I try not to even tell you, because if I give you a time, it's almost guaranteed to be wrong. Then you're mad at me. So I apologize, but that's a part of track and field. That's something that's outside of our control. So if you have a tight schedule and are trying to make it, you may have to be flexible and communicate with your athlete where they at the track. You've got the document that says the schedule of events, and you can see, okay, we're there at the 200, there at the, just started the mile, and the 200 is way down the list, so I've got some time. But so back to the question of how do we know when our athletes are going to be entered? We will get that as soon as we know, and like I said, a lot of times it's moving pieces, and we find out an athlete's not going to go. That is very frustrating. So if you guys can help us, letting us know as early as possible if you know your athlete's going to miss a meet and we can't enter them, please let us know. There is a function on the calendar where you can RSVP to an event, yes or no. That is helpful, but it's not that, like, we have not gotten to the point where that's the law and we go by that exclusively. So if you do, you know, mark on the calendar, I'm not, you know, that Johnny's not available for this meet, please send us a message as well to make sure it gets to our attention. With the amount of kids, sometimes that list gets really, really long. Okay. Let me see if where we're at on the. Okay. Attire and footwear. It's important that the athletes have proper running shoes. For the athletes that are like elite varsity especially, you know, they should have spikes. Spikes being the shoes where the spikes screw into, potentially, but they don't have to have them. They can race in running shoes. It'll just be a disadvantage. We do have some spikes that have been donated back to the team, and we're happy to hand those out, but an athlete should have shoes, both running shoes especially, and spikes that are made and sized properly for them. And there's a huge difference between distance and sprint spikes. So when you go to get spikes, most of the time, the spikes will be designated sprint, multi, which you pretty much use for anything, mid-distance or distance. The mid-distance spikes are pretty much used for anything, even though the ones there's a few that say multis, but the ones that say mid-distance, you can sprint in those, you can jump in them, you can do pretty much anything in them, including, you know, up to the mile or 2 mile in those. So mid-distance is really 5K and below, right? We really don't have any athletes that qualify as distance that's 10K and above. So it's mid-distance. But the sprint spikes, the big difference is sprint spikes, you cannot run distance events or anything else in sprint spikes. They are solid, they're hard, they're made to keep the athletes on their toes and return maximal energy back into their foot, which over a distance race, you know, even the 400s, kind of a toss-up, can create a lot of lower leg injuries, especially when we use them a lot in practice. Okay? So we do practice in them, but not a ton. And for distance athletes, they should have a watch. Nowadays, the kids are always carrying their phone as a timer, but that's big and heavy and not recommended. One of the things that we emphasize with the athletes is that all of the training that we do, the running, the jumping, the throwing, lifting weights, none of those exercises make them faster, stronger. Nothing we do improves their training until they recover from it. So recovery is the key. Everything on a simple basis, everything we do is to apply some kind of stress to the body. You know, our program is scientifically driven. So the vast majority of everything we do is based in some kind of science behind it. We're applying stress to their body in a certain way or format that we're trying to get their body to make some kind of a change or adjustment to increase their performance ability. Right? So the stress is the first part. If they don't recover from that stress, they will not get faster. In fact, they're just more prone to injury. That means, you know, for athletes, getting enough sleep, proper stretching and flexibility. We're going to have a short presentation on that as well, by the way. I'll get into that in a minute. Stretching and flexibility, nutrition, hydration, especially as it's getting hotter. A lot of athletes are drinking, you know, even if they increase their water intake, they're not increasing their electrolytes. So sodium, magnesium, potassium. There's a lot of different drinks out there like Liquid IV, Element T, and there's a host of them that will provide electrolytes. Even just sea salt is helpful. But pure water isn't enough on its own because it doesn't replace electrolytes. Gatorade is a really poor electrolyte replacement. It's primarily just sugar. So it's kind of a sugar drink promoted as a sports drink. But there are a lot of different electrolyte opportunities for you. You can get it most any store, even like Walmart and stuff. And then a big one is sleep. So I know it's hard for the kids to try to get 8-9 hours of sleep a night. That's what they need to maximally prepare. But the schedules don't usually allow for that. So just trying to encourage them to turn off Fortnite, you know, or movie or whatever. We don't have homework, but it's just, they're just spending time, try and get them to get enough sleep if they can. Now we got team pictures, which we're doing today. We do have the photographers coming back. Just confirmed it with them Wednesday. Wednesday right after school. Wednesday's a big day with their first meet and all that stuff, but that was the only availability they had for a makeup day. So for any of the athletes that missed it, that will be an opportunity.
So is it just the team picture, or are they taking theirs
No,
individually?
there is no team picture. So it gets made, it gets created. So we don't take a picture, everybody stands up and we're doing big team. Nowadays, what they do is everybody takes individual pictures and they compile them. So they'll do several poses with the kids. So they'll do like a team picture pose, everybody's the same, and then they'll let the kids do a couple different poses. And then the way the pictures work is that once they're ready, they do it all online, everything digitized and stuff. And then when the pictures are ready, they'll send us a link. You can go, you can look at them, you can see if you like those or not, and you can pick what you want.
Do you know
and
what
order.
time in stage?
12:30, so right after school. The photographers are going to set up right after school, and then take them. They have another photo shoot at Agua Fria at like 2 o'clock. So they'll just hit the kids that missed today and get
So
out.
I should still pull mine out of band and make sure they're here right now.
It would be. It might be worthwhile. But they should be taking pictures until 11 or 12. I don't know exactly. It depends on how long it takes to get through. They had 3 photographers coming, but there was only 1 here so far when we started the meeting.
I have another question.
Yes.
I know you said things like, you know, tell your kid to get sleep and turn off Fortnite, but as far as injury, do you guys do like ice baths, or do you tape the kids for injuries, like, or do they need to provide some of that stuff on their own?
Great question. We have a training staff. So the question was about injuries, what do we provide, and what do they need to provide on their own. I encourage the kids to take ice baths or even just use a pool this time of year to sit in, because we only have 2 ice baths in the training room,
That was my next
and so,
question.
yeah, we have 2 ice baths, and we kind of fit 2 kids at a time in each one, but that means 4 kids getting an ice bath for 10 minutes, you know, a piece. That takes a long time, and the training room is overwhelmed often. Okay, so that's one of the things that we've been talking to kids about, is not going to the trainer every time you have, you know, a toenail sore, or, you know, we get a lot of it, and I know a lot of the kids are just, they're new and they're not fit yet, and it's hard, so, you know, they're trying to get themselves breaks. But we have 1 trainer for the whole school, and so she gets overwhelmed really quickly. And then when we go back there, we often find, you know, 12 or 15 kids, mostly just standing around, you know, or they've got ice on their leg for a little bit, and then they're fine. You know, then we see them running in the parking lot later. So it is a limited resource, and so please encourage your kids to use it when they need it. And it is there, and that's the point, when they need it. And if they need taped, the trainers would tape them. But depends on what their injury is. And the trainers try to do a good job of managing each of the kids and their training, you know, their recovery plan. So that's their role. And I think we do have an assistant now for the trainer, but still just, you know, one person overseeing all the sports and all the events. So if there's a baseball game going on, she has to be at the game. She can't be in training. she has to be at the game in case there's a major injury. So we get kind of last billing because of the priority. Question?
Yeah, real quick, did you say that you would know the Thursday before, the Saturday track meet, who was gonna compete at that?
Usually by like midnight on Thursday.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
referencing the Saturday track meet that you said was before spring break.
Oh, okay. That one, I don't remember the exact date that closes, either Wednesday or Thursday. But if it's a single case, like that's something you can message us or, either me or Coach Hannibal or Coach Manchi, depending if they're thrower, sprinter, or distance main group. And we can give you some feedback. There are some kids that we know are probably not going to get into an invitational. Some kids we know are definitely going to get into an invitation. So we may know the athlete. I don't want to talk about him now, but we may be able to give you some feedback in between then. But normally we're going to know either Wednesday or Thursday, but sometimes it's sooner than that if the entry's closed. Sorry, I can't be more specific, but okay, so speaking of, jumping into that a little bit, with event selection, we do get some feedback, some from the kids. Like all the sprinters always want to run the 100, never want to run the 400, but we'll take their input, but ultimately it's coach's decision, sometimes for the kids' benefit, sometimes for the team's benefit. So at the end of the day, event selection with high school track and field is based on the coach's prerogative. There are opportunities for kids that if they're not getting to do an event that they really want to do, to get into a club even after the season and do USA Track and Field club. I coached at that level for a long time, and it's great. The kids can pick their events in that instance because you're paying for that. But in high school, we'll make those final decisions. So getting into dual meets a little bit, we talked about that some, but if anybody wants to help out and volunteer, we can all, this coming meet, I think we have 86 or 88 different spots we have to fill to be able to run the entire meet. Coaching staff takes most of the larger ones, like let's say we're at the pole vault or high jump. It's a coach that's going to be raising the bar and doing the detailed part of the event, but we still need people to help, put the bar back up, rake the long jump hits, things like that. There's lots of different things that we need help with. So if you want to help out, especially like if your kid's a long jumper, you want to see everything up close, you can volunteer to help, rake the sand after each jump. So stuff like that. Let us know, because that we could always use help.
Is there going to be like a sign-up genius for that, or is it just contact individually?
Just contact us. So right now we haven't had a big enough group of parents helping out to set up a sign-up genius for that. I have kind of like my own list, a spreadsheet that I have that I'm filling in spots, and so we may usually if parents reach out, then I'll kind of find what fits best for them.
Is that only for the meets or is that for practice as well?
Only for the meets. Great question. Does that include practice as well? No, practices are closed. So that means by district rule, parents are not permitted on campus during practice, or to see. That has nothing to do with us, not our rule. It's a district-wide policy that, for all sports, parents, or anybody, it's a safety and security thing that we're just not allowed to have observers during practice. If you're unfamiliar with meets and traveling and stuff to a meet, athletes are required by district rule to ride the bus to and from the meet. So if you happen to live closer to the meet than then Millennium, it'd be more convenient to bring the kid home with you. It's not allowed. The only exception to that is, in certain circumstances, if you email the athletic director specifically and ask him for a travel waiver and explain why, don't say I'm going to a birthday party afterwards and it'd be convenient. So I'll let you guys come up with your own ideas, but if there's some legitimate reason that he can bend the rules, then and give you a waiver to take the kid to or from a meet. Like a good example would be an athlete taking the ACT that's competing in the afternoon on a Saturday. That for sure, the athletic director is going to approve a waiver for you to transport the athlete. The athletes are never allowed a waiver to transport themselves. Okay, so they will not approve it. Not saying it doesn't happen, but they won't approve it for the athlete to transport themselves. We don't police it, but the waivers are only granted for parents to transport athletes. Couple quick things. Kids today, they have Crocs all the time. I've got distance runners that run an interval, switch into their Crocs, do their rest, switch their shoes back on and go run. I don't get it. But anyhow, that happens. And then we end up seeing a lot of athletes that will go out, like at an invitational, and be running around the track in Crocs. I know it drives Coach Hannibal crazy. Most of my kids don't do it on the distance side, but he still has a lot of the sprinters out there warming up in Crocs. They're like, oh, I put it in sport mode. That doesn't. So that please help remind your kids that they should have proper running attire at track meets, and they should not go out on the track and warm up, even if they like to wear their Crocs on the bus. They shouldn't be warming up in those things. Length of the meets, if you're not familiar with track and field, they are long. We get the worst of it. The coaches, like Chandler Rotary's a 2-day meet. We leave here at 6 in the morning. We'll get back, like we might get home at 1 or 2 at night, and we leave the next day at 6 in the morning. And then we get back at 1 or 2 at night. It is a brutal meet. That meet, most of the kids only go either Friday or Saturday, not both. There's only a few kids that have an overlapping day. And the athletic director has gotten more lenient about allowing, an athlete that's competing at 8 o'clock on Saturday night to get a waiver to come in later, so they're not out in 105, 110 degree heat for 9 hours and then trying to compete with some of the best. That meet is a multi-state competitive meet. But the point is, the meets, most of them are all day. We leave early in the morning. We'll get back, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. The kids are never prepared, like everybody. Some are, but there's always kids that don't have water, don't have money, don't have food, and they raid our snack bin. So we provide emergency level snacks for the kids. We bring a big cooler with snacks, and we bring a couple coolers of water and usually just Gatorades or whatever the Booster Club is kind enough to supply for us to take. So we'll often have 5 coolers at the meet, one just with snacks in it. I can't tell you how many times at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, I've gone and the snack cooler's empty. And then I look and I see one kid with 19 wrappers around. It's not an opportunity for the kids to catch up on missed meals and or be their meals for the day. We have snacks. We do not have meal type food. It's just stuff to kind of supplement a little bit, on a long day. But we've tried not to have somebody with sitting next to the cooler rationing it, but we may have to go to that as it continues. Last year we went through thousands of dollars of drinks and food that we supplied, conjunction with the booster for the kids. So literally thousands, I want to say $3,000 to $4,000 last year. And often we come home and they're all empty. So we're starting over. So if the kids are prepared in advance, they've got extra Gatorades, waters, a little cooler for themselves, you know, a couple thermoses of water they can refill. They can get through a day, and you know, money for meals. There's always snack bars there, or you guys can bring them stuff. They are not allowed to leave campus. So if we're on a campus, they can warm up, you know, in the areas around the track, but they cannot leave the school grounds. Every year it's a problem. Some kid will go down, you know, run a mile down the road to Wendy's and come back, you know, and we have to discipline them. So I mean, it happens every year, but we try to make sure it doesn't. That's a huge liability for us. And we don't know where the kids are, you know, so they're not allowed to leave. It's still hard enough to police them just on campus. But Coach Diggs knows because I still remember a specific time in high school. He was walking back with an ice cream cone from a Dairy Queen.
Yeah,
So,
it was McDonald's.
or McDonald's, was it McDonald's ice cream?
Yeah. I don't want a 2 mile for it though.
So yeah, the head coach at the time introduced him to the 2 mile. He was a decathlete and sprinter primarily. So he held his own. I was proud of him, but he didn't have as big of a smile, I'll tell you. But anyways, yeah, that happens. So that it shouldn't. The kids can't leave. They, you know, nowadays they will, you know, order like Uber Eats or something. Pick it up at the entrance of the school. You know, they get creative, or their friends bring stuff. But point is, please help make sure they're prepared for a long day and it's hot. We have canopies to provide some shade, but it's still going to be hot. Let me see what I can skip here because we're running long enough time. At the end of the season, it's already on the schedule, May 22nd. It's a Tuesday before the end of school. We'll have our banquet, awards banquet, and dinner. We're still trying to figure out where we can house it. So bear with us, but we're going to have, you know, a team meal of some kind and awards. So that'll be on the schedule. It's a couple days before the end of school, but the open state meet. So state meet real quick. They have a division, and now Division I state meet May 8th and 10th at Red Mountain. And that's going to be just the top 24 kids in Division I in each event, or top 20 in a couple of the events like pole vault. And so just whoever's ranked the top 24 will qualify throughout the season at a qualifying meet, so not the dual meets. But then they compile the top, I think it's 18, between all of the division meets and have an open meet, combined state meet. And that happens that last weekend. I think it's the 16th and 17th of May. So it's at the end, and that's at Mason Community College. The other one's at Red Mountain. So now that we're Division I, we're all the way out to the other side of town for that. And then we'll have the banquet right after that. Okay, last two things that I need to hit on. I'm going to introduce you guys in a second to a member of our booster club. So this last year during the fall, we rebooted our booster. Just not to go into a lot of details, but we basically are rebuilding the booster club. So we have a new board that's taken over and already doing a great job. But right now we have, I think, one booster member yesterday signed up for 2 days ago. So now we're on a drive to get booster membership. So we're looking for parents that are willing to help out some way, shape, or form, or even just follow along what's going on. So they're gonna have scheduled meetings. There's gonna be a separate sports U group just for the booster that already exists. So once you become a member of the booster, they can add you to it. We've changed the fee structure, so now it's only $5 to become a booster member, because there has to be a fee associated with becoming a member of the booster and getting voting rights. But then the Booster Club helps to raise money and helps pay for a lot of our stuff. The school only pays for 2 of our meets. We have to cover the other $3,000 worth of meet entries on top of everything else we do. Running the team each year, not counting coaches, because that's paid through the school, but just running the team is somewhere in the $15,000 to $20,000 range a year that we spend just to keep up with, equipment, very expensive, replacing equipment, sometimes adding uniforms, things like that. So there's a lot of different things. Anyways, the awards banquet alone, last year we handed out, I think, 70 plaques for the kids. So there's a lot of different things that we need help with, and things like we need booster members that are going to take, be part of like a senior night committee, banquet committee, things like that. So I'll let them tell you a little bit more about it. So this is Guadalupe Wilson, who's our treasurer for our booster club, and I'm going to turn the floor over to her. And JC, are you speaking too?
I'm not speaking.
Okay. JC and Jennifer are other members of our board. So
Good morning. Good morning, parents and guardians. So as he said, my name is Guadalupe.
JC.
And Jennifer. Okay, so we are 3 of 4 of the board members here at Millennium, and we welcome you. I see some new faces and obviously returning ones. Thank you. So what is a booster club? You might be wondering, what do we do? So here at Millennium, we try to give our students, the best time and help them out with creating a good scene for the banquet. We pretty much helping them. We're volunteers, obviously, and we just want them to have a good experience after their season is over. Like Coach said, senior night is a big one. A lot of you probably have some seniors here. I have a sophomore, so I still have a few years. And we're looking for talents. Like if you're good with craft and you would like to donate or make some centerpieces for the banquet, that would be great. Like you said, also is $5 to become a member. You get voting rights. Also, we can create some memorable moments for the children. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything else?
Yeah, so it's super easy to sign up. Like Coach Rafferty already said, you can sign up through the website. There's a link that you can follow. Easiest way, right here, we got a QR code for anyone who wants to join. You literally just scan it, takes you to a Google Forms. You just sign up on there, and then you can pay the $5 through Zelle. There's other options down here if you want to be interested in that. You can look into it. Also down here, Coach Rafferty talked about the different codes to join Sports U. If you are not receiving the emails that he sent out or you don't know, they're right here. Get on that, and then he will also send an update through the Sports U. So lots of updates. Just look at them.
Yeah. Awesome. And come see us if you have any questions.
We'll be over
and how
here.
to join and everything. So.
all right, thank you guys for everything you do. These guys have done a great job. I'm really excited because all of the booster board members have sophomores or younger. So every year it's been a challenge trying to find new volunteers to join the booster as their kids graduate. It's a really important part of our organization overall as a program here, because without them we would not be able to fund everything. I mean, it just wouldn't happen. We have a brand new track this year. If you guys didn't notice, there's still construction stuff going on, but the track is completely brand new. We have a new pole vault, or I'm sorry, high jump mat. Just that alone, the high jump mat is like $7,000. So, the cost to run the track program is extensive. We're looking to replace all of our blocks. That's going to be a several $1,000s investment. But those kinds of things, you know, are what the Booster Club makes possible. So we'd encourage all of the parents and family to be a member and follow along. They'll have a meeting, I think monthly online, just to keep you updated and look for volunteers and things like that. So please, as many people as possible, please join the Booster and help out and volunteers. We've got one more quick presentation. Before I introduce them, I'm gonna let them finish up. Is there any questions? I know we've covered a ton of ground today. Is there any questions that anybody still has that? Okay. Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was looking at the athletic.net, like
Uh-huh.
one of the app there, and it says there's a team code required for this one too, to when you create a thing. Is there a plan?
No, that gets confusing. That there's another level of athletic.net that we don't use.
So you don't have to create a membership?
You don't have to create a membership, no.
I have a question.
Yes.
So anyone who's new to the app, right, when you open it up, it asks you to create an account.
Right.
And when you press on it, it'll ask you to put in an access code.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the access codes are up here. So there's a code for each group. First is the main team group, and everybody should be part of that one. It's an 8-digit code, and then each of the subgroups also have a code. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Question?
Are you guys associated with any club, like club, the track?
We are not. There's a club that practices here, and we don't have a specific club that we are connected with. I used to help run a large club, but they've now incorporated over in Canyon View, and they're not part of Millennium's program anymore. But there are a number of good clubs. And if you have a question about clubs and stuff, you know, I can kind of help steer you later on. Anybody else? Okay, last thing on the, go ahead, sorry.
How do you filter out JV and varsity?
Great question. We don't have a really clear JV varsity list. And that's one of the things that's a little bit difficult. So there are some athletes that are going to compete at every invitational because they were on the podium at state last year. We know that they're going to be competing at every invitational. But the bulk of the team, at probably 40% or more, we really don't know. They're kind of in the mix. And at this point in the season, a lot of the talent hasn't really come out yet. Specifically where everybody ranks. We haven't even got into high jumping, long jumping, some of the other events to even see where the athletes are at. And so a lot of the athletes, let's say, we've got our top 3 in the 100. So maybe an athlete that was not going to make varsity in the 100 may try out long jump or become a hurler and end up in varsity over there. So the varsity is always kind of a little bit of a moving target. The best thing I can tell you is if the athletes are consistently getting invited to invitationals, then they would be pretty much varsity. We try to, at the end of the season, we try to find excuses to give everybody that we can a varsity letter. So if they've contributed enough to the team, we would consider them varsity. I don't know if that answers your question, but we don't have a cut dry varsity list until like the very end of the season.
I had a question.
Yes.
About what we're talking about.
Okay.
So you guys don't take times during practice?
No.
To be able to determine who is varsity?
No, it's not a, the question was, do we take times at practice to try to determine varsity? We do some timing, like time trials in practice, periodically. That's more for a benefit for us for training groups, like who should be working out together, than it is clearly defining, because it's all hand. We don't have like the electronic timing, and it's different. Some kids will perform consistently better in a real race than they're ever going to perform in practice.
I was just wondering, we're new to Millennium.
Oh, that's okay.
So I was just asking, when you build a relay team, how do you know who's running first leg or last leg? discuss, so are you guys building?
We'll determine that, yeah, I mean, that's just something that, it depends on the event, or depends on the relay specifically, depends on the kids that are in it. Sometimes there are traditional spots where you put your fastest or slowest athlete, but that's not a cut and dry thing all the time. Sometimes it depends on the kids, like let's say in the 4x1, athletes that are good at getting out of the blocks, or athletes that struggle with timing may end up, they may be the fastest, but they're going to go to first leg because they can't consistently get out correctly, or they struggle with handoffs, getting and receiving. So there's a lot of other, areas that kind of go into the mix there. It's not just purely on time. In fact, last year, I think we had one of the top 4x1s in the state, but one of the top 4 guys on our team in the open 100 was not on it because there was some challenge. He was mixed in, but they ran faster when he wasn't there. I can't explain why. Sometimes it's just the dynamics of the relay itself. Timing. It's timing the handoffs and stuff. So even though he maybe was a little bit faster, so sometimes that works into it. And usually it takes time to kind of, for that to become apparent for us. But that's one of the reasons why we do electronic timing in the dual meets. So that's really kind of where we can kind of figure it out from there. Okay, anything else? Okay, guys, sorry we've gone so long, but really one last important thing. We have a short presentation here. Coach Diggs is part of a company, as well as Mr. Isaac back here is a former a star here at Millennium in the track and football programs, and they're part of a company called Stretch Labs. So, what we do, the stretching that we do here with the team is not designed to increase their flexibility. It's just we don't have enough time. So everything we do is more injury preventative, the bare minimums that we have to get through to try to keep the kids healthy, but it's not going to significantly change their actual flexibility, which is a huge advantage competitively. So if their stride length increases by 1/2 inch or 1 inch because their hamstrings are more flexible and pliable, they're less likely to get injured and their times are going to get faster without any more effort involved. What Stretch Labs is about is helping the kids, basically physical therapy on the stretching level. I'll let them get into the details, but they're here to kind of let us know what's available for your kids to be able to help them get better. And so I'll let you guys take over. I'm not sure who's presenting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Selena would do the trial.
Selena?
Yeah. Hi guys, my name is Selena. I just want to take the time to say that we will go through this as quickly but efficiently as possible. It is so heartwarming to see this many parents and guardians here on a Saturday morning. So we really appreciate your time and value it, and we're so excited to be here today. We have 2 Valley locations. We are the only West Side for one-on-one assisted PNF stretching. Stretch Lab is a larger corporate brand that you'll see with over 500 studios internationally. So here, Japan and Canada, we're the only ones internationally certified and ranked in PNF stretching. And there's so many benefits to it, not just for your athletes, but for you as well. But again, we're going to prioritize recovery and preventative care today, since that's what we're all about when it comes to your kids. Our biggest mission is to provide these internationally accredited and clinically proven PNF stretches to help educate and elevate the next generation of athletes and young adults. Through evidence-based techniques and comprehensive training, we aim to empower your students and athletes with the knowledge and skills to enhance their performance, prevent injury, and of course promote lifelong wellness. Some of the biggest key takeaways that we're going to touch base today on are improving the performance, reducing soreness, and of course decreasing the risk of injury. PNF stretching, which stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, is a long fancy word, but essentially it is a contract and release method of stretching that actually targets the nervous system and the muscular system. Through these passive, specific patterns of contraction and relaxation and active movements, we actually target those muscles to lengthen and strengthen them. So the same way many of you may have had experience in the gym or taking a weight training class, you had to take appropriate conditioning, Nobody expected you to get on the track and sprint a 4-minute mile or go and bench press 500 pounds. If you were to put somebody with no knowledge into that realm, they are going to either A, hurt themselves, or B, go, this sucks, I don't want to do this anymore. And that doesn't set anybody up for success or healthy long-term lifestyle changes. We take the guessing work out of that. We bring you in for a first visit experience in which we actually take your athlete based off of their events that they're performing, any previous or current injuries, and of course just areas where it may be extra sore or tight, and we create a customized training program. So the same way you can get a personal trainer in the gym, you get a personal trainer for your mobility and strength with us. We create customized plans that use PNF cycling, which is increasing how many cycles we can do of that contract and release, and the tension that you're feeling throughout it to help those muscles achieve the desired effect. From there, what we offer specifically is we are only partnering with 3 high schools this season, is we offer discounted mobile stretching, which means we will actually come to areas that we are approved and allowed to, and perform mobile stretches for your athlete at that time. When you come into our studios, we actually offer a lifelong discount. Even if this is something they pursue into their college years, or perhaps you want to get a family plan and get the whole household included, we offer 10% off any program, plan, or service. And to really give you an idea of what it is to experience a stretch, Isaac is going to take Aiden through a demo experience. And for all attendees today, you have a QR code that I'll have available on the page over there, in which you all can get a free stretch. Just schedule it through the front desk. The QR code will direct you to a platform for Stretch Lab Park West because it is the closest location for you. And you can claim a free body scan as well. It is something called MAPS, which is only available at a Stretch Lab. It measures joint activation, muscle activation, posture, and symmetry. For those on a consistent plan with us, we actually track it once a month. So not only can your athlete or yourself feel those physiological changes, you can see it. And it has a direct correspondence in how they're going to perform and move throughout the day. Something that I'll just touch on real quick before Isaac does that quick demo is I heard a great question about proper hydration and electrolytes. We actually have 2 partners that we work with. The first one is going to be Hydratini. They're phenomenal. Saturdays after we close and Sundays as well, we do private VIP stretching. There's only about 12 spots available every 3 hours in which your athlete gets a custom IV. That means it is mixed and prepared in front of you and administered within 5 minutes based off of all of their needs. It's phenomenal, and since you're coming into our studio for that, they get a free stretch before or after. Really just depends on how you're scheduling. I do have 12 spots left tomorrow. I can take 6 people at noon and 6 people at 1:30. If you're interested in that specific demo experience, just come up to me personally, I'll get you booked. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it to Isaac and Aiden.
All right. Can I interrupt just 1 second?
Oh, yeah.
Was anybody in here on a Ford FX4 red pickup? It's blocking our trailer. We're not able to go to competition because I've got no way to get the trailer out. So, okay. Thanks.
Forward.
Jump ahead. Got the play. It's not mine. It's not mine.
Right there.
All right, so I'm Isaac Oliver with Aiden here with Stretch Lab one-on-one assisted stretching. So kind of piggybacking off of some of the stuff that Selena said, mainly for preventative care, sport performance, pain and tension relief. Now I can sit here and go on for an hour on how it can help each and every one of you moms and dads out here. But I'm specifically here to talk about how it can help your athlete. Okay, so like what a first visit experience will kind of look like is we'll bring your athlete in and bring them in front of our MAPS machine. As she was saying, it assesses our mobility, activation, posture, and our symmetry. So we have you do 3 overhead squats in front of our MAPS machine, and with that athletic movement, we're seeing your deficiencies within your mobility. And then for that 25 minutes or 50 minutes, you're spending your time with a mobility coach, is what I like to say. Okay, everybody's got a strength and conditioning coach, everybody's got a speed and agility coach, okay, but you need a mobility coach. Okay, so one thing that they don't focus on at the high school level is this. And you know, I have family members who play at the highest level of football and ran at the highest level of track and field. Aiden here ran at GCU, so he can tell you himself. But at the high school level, again, I'm piggybacking off of what Coach Rafferty had said. there's 2 trainers, or 1 volunteer and 1 trainer, like 1 trainer and 1 volunteer. Okay, so they have a lot to do, a lot of people to attend to, so they can't really focus on your athlete, solely just your athlete, you know what I mean? And so we want to be able to come in and complement that outside of the school, okay? And being able to have time to spend with your athlete, come in studio, or again, like we said, come remotely to you and spend time with your athlete with that 50 minutes and really giving them an extensive program to help them and help their performance. Okay, so knowing Aiden here, we don't have our math team with us, but knowing Aiden here, I know he's a decathlete. Okay, he ran the decathlon, but he was also, in high school, he was also a hurdler, one of the top hurdlers in the state, in the country, okay? Now, I'm not saying Aiden can beat me, but he's one of the top, you know? All right, so I know Aiden as a hurdler, internal, external rotation is gonna be a deficiency for him, and it's actually gonna help him a lot because he's a hurdler, all right? His hips are rotating a lot, and every day. I mean, you're practicing 5 days out the week, so you need to be stretching, honestly, more than you're training, okay? And it's like I like to say, like that LeBron James and Tom Brady routine. I mean, that's why they're able to do the things that they're doing for so long. And I've ran into so many kids that get these scholarships out of high school, and then they get to the college and they start running into issues. Muscular issues, hamstring issues, groin issues, whatever the case may be, Achilles issues. All of that stems from not doing enough of this, you know, prior to going to college. But once you go to college, it's ×2. You know what I mean? You're up in the work, okay? So with Aiden here, I'll take his leg, and I'm gonna kind of just internally rotate his leg. And part of that PNF stretching we do, so to, you know, to strengthen Aiden's internal rotation here, I'm gonna have him go ahead and internally rotate his leg. There you go. And he's pushing it back against me for 3, 2, 1, and relax. And as he relaxes, we're going a little deeper into that stretch. And I'll take his leg, and we're gonna go the opposite way externally. And I can already tell just by going like this is his deficiency, okay? So ideally we want this to be parallel, all right, 90 degrees. But he's gonna be very tight, but it also stems from how strong he is too, as a runner.
So strong.
And this is the type of stuff we'll do in the studio. We'll chat and joke around too. He's gonna push it here, and now he's gonna feel this mainly in his piriformis, kind of on the outside part of this glute here. Okay, a primary muscle that you're gonna use when running, hurdles, jumping, everything that you do. Okay, and some other stuff that we do in studio is mainly we're stretching. That's what we like to base off of, but we have numerous recovery tools that we use within the stretch. Okay, so with Aiden here, you know, he can take it, he's an athlete, and he's got a lot of tension. Alright, so if I were to take his leg here, I may have a massage gun in my hand in the studio. Maybe massage gun on this piriformis right here, just to kind of complement the stretch, help me get a little deeper. Stuff that you can't do on your own, okay? And getting into an extensive stretch and doing stuff that you can't do on your own. Because like Coach Rafferty was saying, they do stretching here, you know what I mean, to warm up and stuff, but it's not extensive, okay? And that's why I feel like, personally, the rate of injuries in high school is far too high, especially with kids only being in the range of 14 to 18 years old. Right? And so I'm just gonna kind of even them out, do this leg here, and I'm gonna show you guys one more stretch that's gonna show you guys why it would help your athlete in every event. And then I'll be able to finish. Aiden, go ahead and push back into me, internally rotate his leg for 3, 2, 1, and relax. And even for a lot of you moms and dads out here, going to the gym, and actually not even just going to the gym, sitting there, being in a seated position for 8 hours typing on the computer, all of that stuff is symmetrically deteriorating your body, okay? And so that's why I feel it is for everybody, not just your your athletes.
Are you covered by insurance?
We are not covered by insurance, but go ahead, Sylvie.
Yeah, so it's a tricky road. Essentially, we are accepted by all HSAs and FSAs, which is a phenomenal advantage if you don't already have one set up. Essentially, that debit or credit card can be used for any medical expenditure, and we are covered under that. For direct billing through insurance, the only one that we have partnership with is Optum, which can be partnered with several different larger conglomerates. I know United Healthcare unfortunately terminated their agreement with Optum this year, so you can no longer get it covered through that. I believe American Specialty Health covers up to 2 half-hours a month. On average, for most athletes, we like to see them minimum an hour a week because they are doing 5 times that much just in movement, let alone the 8 hours full that they have on top of that. But it's something to look into. You can always call the customer service line on the back to see if you qualify for that add-on, just to see how much that additional cost would be or if you already qualify. So the answer is yes, but very limited unless you have an HSA or FSA, which we work with any insurance that offers that. That's a great question.
Perfect. And touching up a little right here, stride length. This is going to be your stride length within just stretching mobility. And some of you do the strengthen right here. Some have you push this and relax. As we're relaxing, we're just increasing aided stride length right here.
What's the average cost?
I'll be out there in a minute.
Session?
The average cost. So for your first evaluation stretch, we'll bring you in on a discounted rate for $49 for a 50-minute session. That will include your body scan and your stretch. And then after that, we'll put you on a program. We have a set number of programs that we have that we'll put you on, tailoring to your client, to your athletes. But do you want to further with the?
Yeah. So as it was saying, there are those 2 different methods. The initial first visit, which again, everybody here, if you'd like to scan that QR code, gets a free 15 minutes. So that would be free of cost with a free body scan. If you are wanting to do the longer session of the full body, head to toe, that one is $49 your first time in. And if you move forward with the program, you have length and frequency. Our plans start at once, go up to twice, or 3 times a week. For either a 25-minute, which we consider that our targeted, it's just enough to focus on one specific muscle group. So think hips and below or hips and above for that session. Whereas a 50-minute, we can either spend an extra time on those muscle groups, or we can go through PNFs head to toe. Depending on which you choose, whether it's once, twice, or 3, or the longer or shorter, gives you your cost per month. What I really enjoy about Stretch Lab is it's not a gym membership. We are more of a clinical setting, so we don't lock you into a daily plan. In fact, all of our plans only have a 90-day probationary period, which you then go month to month afterwards, and your rate never increases. So essentially, let's say your athlete wants to come in once a week for the hour, you'd be looking at about $260 a month with your discount for life. Never increases, never adjusts, and if your athlete for any reason cannot make that session, goodness forbid they're not feeling well, credits can actually be rolled over to the next month. It isn't a use it or lose it like some massage or chiropractic offices. You pay for those credits. We want you to have that value in service, so they're called rollovers. From there, the pricing will just go up as you go up essentially, but your cost per service goes down, which is really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then just open to any questions from, I'm a flexologist from this mobility standpoint and what I'll be doing with your child. Feel free to ask any questions.
Do you do any stretching?
Sorry.
Thank you guys for coming. The booster, make sure you guys can, if you guys want to sign up for a booster, make sure you click on the QR code. If you have any questions for myself, you guys can come in.
Now we're through on.
Great fun. I love it. Good to see you guys. Good to see
I'm gonna lock the door.
This is so-and-so, I want my daughter to be next Sunday.
They have so like what yeah, okay. Alright. I'll talk to her and I'll pull her aside. Okay. Everybody at least has to and they have to understand I'll put them in the best event for them. I will give them a choice. And I don't like to do that, my kid last year, he was the number one in the state in the 100. He ran the fourth fastest time in Arizona history in the 100. And I told him, you're not 100 you're a 200 meter. I ran like a 2-3 guy. I was like, you're not even, I know guys that run 10 flat, guys can 10-2. Like, you are not at that level. And then he went on his college trips, and he's like, coach, you know what they told me? I was like, he's like, it's 2 minutes more than me. I'm telling you that.
Well, watch this. Thank you. What part of my husband.
Is that what, I mean, I think you
Well, he's retired now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is mine is retired. We might want to turn this off.
I will put them in it. They gotta run. I gotta have them to have speed and